context clips.
Can you debunk a myth for me?
Go
I don't
on.
know if it's a myth. Is the green code in the Matrix sushi recipe?
That and a lot more. I made the code.
So you were responsible for making the code. The green code in the Matrix.
The green code in the Matrix. It's a collaborative effort again. So the shader.
Can you say that again? You made the green code.
I made the green code. Yeah. So I assembled
Wow.
it. Now,
Yeah.
the font came from this amazing designer called Simon Whiteley. And I didn't realize how important fonts were until I saw him build the font.
So he designed this font from scratch.
He pretty much designed it from scratch. And so he did the thing where it had to be utterly generic. It had to be a language. He did it 26 characters in a space, I think. So he designed this thing so that it was every single character was utterly distinctive from every other character. So it wasn't like you got an E and an F and the only difference between them was a stroke missing. It was like every single character was completely distinct. He went through at least 24 major iterations on that thing before he was happy with it.
24?
24,
Wow.
at least. This is A-level design we're talking here, right?
Okay. How much money is that?
Oh, it's time, months of time.
Months and months.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's definitely kanji in there, and he would have been inspired by sushi, but I remember him telling me he'd put a few Cyrillic characters in there.
Really?
Yeah, some Russian ones, like backwards, or the backwards R or that sort of stuff, because they were quite distinct from the Latin stuff. So there's a couple of numbers in there. There's a couple of one or two Greek characters. There's a couple of simple kanji characters. There was a couple of Cyrillic characters and a bit. It's got everything in there. He just, it's like
went to town.
He poured all this stuff into it and then rendered it down and rendered it down and rendered it down and then it's like cooking. Built this fantastic sauce, and then when I put it on, it's like you'd say, oh no, that doesn't work. And you'd go off and rebuild it again. And I put it into a situation. Like, we go back and change it again. So yeah, I put a lot of time and effort. So yeah, it is sushi rolls and a whole lot more.
Wow. Okay.
Oh yeah, he was serious.
I remember watching that movie for the first time when I was like 12. And then looking up like weird theories on the internet and stuff. And like that was, I think that's what I remember looking for. Is that it was actually sushi.
It's essentially reference.
Yeah.
Right, Leo? Your reference. When you go and do your artwork, you look up your reference.
It always has to be reference.
Not always, but usually.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
He looked up his reference. We got a problem to solve. We need something that defines an entire cosmos.
Did you meet the directors?
Yeah, a few times.
Wow. Who?
They look like two skater dudes with big oversized shorts and backwards facing caps.
Yeah, they like to wear backwards
They're
caps.
the classic 90s cliche.
Back
what you would
when
imagine.
they were dudes, right?
Yeah.
And who are now sisters.
Yes.
Yep.
Could you fact check that for us?
The Wachowski siblings.
Yeah.
Yep, that's true.
Wow.
So they described all this thing, and I'd already been involved in Sharktopus Whalewolf. Oh my goodness.
Sharktopus.
Sorry, I'm getting distracted by Leo here.
That's all right.
So basically...
so these guys used to be brothers?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're best described as the siblings, really. That's fine.
That's such a cool power move, though. Like having two siblings creating, not just having one person write such a great movie, but
So the code itself, there was the guy who wrote the original shader for me. So I kind of went up to him and said, okay, I've got to make this thing. And we decided eventually to build a shader that would take this strip of texture with the 26 characters and a space on it, chop it up into little 26 squares and a space, and then randomly put them together like type in a old text file. But it wouldn't just type them out randomly. It would actually, we'd concatenate it. That is, there's an old Unix command called cat, where you can read a binary file into another file, but you can feed it into a text file and get all this kind of mad gibberish appear.
Wow.
And then as it appears, it randomly picks up random, not just random letters and numbers, but it also picks up random things like carriage returns and backspaces and clear pages and format this and tab that.
Wow.
So when it comes in, stop just
all random.
It goes out random. I think, yeah, we want something like that, but a little more. The Wachowskis were asking for water running down glass. So okay, got to make this water running down glass.
So
plus code.
Is that what they had in their head?
Yep.
Exactly what you made? Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I was thinking, the more they describe this stuff, the more it sounded like an old-fashioned green screen monitor. So I basically built a widescreen version of an old Commodore PET screen. So if you want to look up a Commodore PET there, Leo.
Yeah, sure.
So a Commodore PET screen. I don't think I've ever heard of that. I'm picturing the Holden Commodore.
Commodore, yeah. No, you're thinking Commodore Computers, PET. Oh, look at that.
Oh, yes, of course.
Right.
Yeah, with the really with the green type. Yeah, okay.
So right. So the thing about it is it's an old CRT. So what happens is that when the green goes up, it leaves a phosphor glow behind it because it's actually it's a cathode ray tube. There's an electron gun firing at a charged grid of phosphors that glow.
Wow.
And when the thing disappears, they kind of fade out like an old light globe. So I basically built the code so it did all its kind of funky stuff. And then I turned my big, beautiful Silicon Graphics workstation. There you go. That stuff. So that stuff there.
So this is the inspiration behind...
format there is what I was using for the code. Now, just swap that out with that lovely font that Simon built, and you're starting to get to where we were. It's literally RGB green.
Because what I wanted to ask you was...
No colour at all, except...
Sort of like what... Green. So that's obviously the inspiration behind the colour green.
So as the type ran, I'd pick up the previous frame I'd just put together, blur it and mix it in underneath, and then take the frame before that, blur it even more and put it underneath. So you'd end up with these little boat trails after all the code. So all the bits that were moving would leave a little trail of phosphor behind them, little 4 or 5 frame long greeny blob that would get more diffuse. And all the stuff that was sitting there would just sit there and glow and fluoresce nicely. And that would kind of give you this nice organic looking feel.
Wow.
So it was a combination of that amazing font, the shader, me arranging this thing and trying to work out the choreography of getting it in. And in the end, I ended up having all the stuff cycling around. Then I took an entire plane, chopped it up into strips, offset the strips and just slid them over the top of it like an old-fashioned cardboard cutout animation. And that worked a treat.
Well, that just sounds like so many hours of work. That
most of it trying to work out where we're going to go with this thing and how it's going to work. And the thing for me was like, no, this has got to be simple. You look at all the subsequent ones, and they've got layers and layers and layers and layers. And it's all complex. Like, no. This has to be simple. And I mean, I'm thinking almost Saul Bass simple, if you know Saul Bass. Saulbass. The famous titler that did films like Psycho.
Right, okay.
Right, did the titles for that. So his thing was that he was just a graphic designer. And so I couldn't make it too complicated because I had to use this code not just for the titles, but I also had to use it as on some actual green screen environments. I think I ended up making 3 flavors of it: a dense layer, a normal layer, and a thin layer. So the dense layer would go on the agents. There's a shot where there's 3 agents at the end of a corridor, all done in green code.
Yeah, wow.
So the agents are done in dense code, so they fluoresce.
Transcending into the next dimension.
But the thin code was used on all the walls. So there are multiple layers of code in the walls. But if I used the regular code, it just turned into green soup. You wouldn't see anything. So I had to make different flavors of it.